Welcome, everyone, to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at shipbuilding.
Ooh,
Sounds kind of dry, maybe, but
yeah,
it's actually super interesting.
absolutely.
There's so much going on. It touches on economics, geopolitics,
Hmm.
even the UPSC exams.
It does. It really
Mm.
does. Shipbuilding is a great way to kind of understand the power dynamics shifting around the world.
Okay, so before we get into which countries are the big players in shipbuilding, let's talk about why there's such a big demand for ships right now.
Sure. So think of it this way. The world's fleet of ships is getting kind of old. Like, a lot of them are nearing retirement.
Makes sense. So we need new ships to replace them.
Exactly. It's like a huge infrastructure project, but on a global scale.
Hmm.
And then on top of that, there's a push for ships to be more environmentally friendly,
Oh, right.
with climate change and all that.
Yeah.
So there's a demand for ships that run on cleaner fuels like LNG or even hydrogen fuel cells. It's a whole new era of shipbuilding.
So we're not just talking about more ships, we're talking about better ships.
Precisely. And let's not forget about the fact that global trade is constantly growing. So naturally, we need more ships to transport all those goods.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so aging ships plus environmental concerns plus more global trade equals a shipbuilding boom.
Bingo.
And the projections are pretty wild. Over 50,000 new ships estimated to be built in the next 30 years.
It's a staggering number.
That's a lot of shipbuilding. So who's leading the charge in all of this?
Well, one country has been dominating the shipbuilding scene for the past 14 years. China.
China, really?
Yep, they're the undisputed kings of shipbuilding right now.
I mean, they are a manufacturing powerhouse, but how dominant are we talking?
They currently hold 62.9% of global shipbuilding orders.
Wow, 62.9%. That's over half the entire market.
It is, and their shipyards are booked solid, some even until 2029. Their revenue from shipbuilding has skyrocketed by 173% year on year.
Those are some serious numbers.
They are, and it's not just because of cheap labor. China has invested heavily in building a really strong shipbuilding infrastructure. They're focused on both commercial ships and naval vessels.
That makes sense. So they can build everything from cargo ships to warships.
Exactly. They have what's called dual-use capacity, which means their shipyards can easily switch between building different types of ships.
Dual use capacity, I see. So they're pretty flexible then.
Very. And here's another interesting thing. To meet this huge demand, China's actually reopening some old shipyards that were shut down before because there wasn't enough work.
Wow, they're really going all in on this. It sounds like they're determined to stay on top. But with China taking up so much of the market, what does that leave everyone else?
Well, there's another major player we need to talk about, South Korea.
Right, South Korea. They've always been big in shipbuilding, haven't they?
They have, but they're facing some serious challenges right now.
Like what?
Well, their biggest problem is a shortage of workers.
Hmm.
South Korean shipyards need about 45,000 more workers just to keep up with the current demand.
45,000 workers. That's a lot.
It is. And it's only going to get worse as the demand for ships continues to grow. On top of that, their shipyards are already fully booked until 2028.
So they're stuck between a rock and a hard place, basically.
Pretty much. But they're not giving up. They're shifting their focus towards more specialized, high-tech ships, like LNG carriers.
LNG carriers.
Yeah, they're ships that transport liquefied natural gas. It's a complex and growing market, and South Korea is really good at building these types of ships.
I see. So instead of trying to compete with China on quantity, they're going for quality and specialization.
Exactly. And they're also looking for partners to help them out. Which brings us to another interesting player, India.
India, I don't usually think of them as a shipbuilding powerhouse.
They're not yet, but
Yeah.
they have big ambitions.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they want to become a top shipbuilding nation. But right now, they only have less than 1% of the global market share.
Wow, that's a big gap to bridge.
It is. But the Indian government is taking some serious steps to boost their domestic shipbuilding industry. They've launched a new fund worth a whopping 25,000 crore rupees just for this purpose.
25,000 crore rupees. That's a serious commitment.
It is. And they're also working on a new shipbuilding policy that will offer incentives for ships that use green fuels.
Okay, so they're aiming for sustainability as well.
Exactly. They're trying to leapfrog into the next generation of shipbuilding, focusing on both quantity and quality. And this is where things get really interesting for our UPSC aspirants out there.
How so?
Well, this whole shipbuilding boom is closely tied to India's economic and geopolitical ambitions. It's a topic that could definitely pop up in the UPSC exams.
So pay attention, UPSC folks. This stuff is important.
It is, but even if you're not prepping for the UTSC exams, this is a fascinating story that's worth following. It touches on so many different aspects of our world.
I agree. It's about economics, technology, geopolitics, the environment. It's all connected.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got China dominating the market, South Korea shifting gears, and India trying to catch up. It's a pretty dynamic landscape.
It is, and it's going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out in the coming years.
Definitely. But we're just getting started with this deep dive. We need to take a closer look at this potential partnership between South Korea and India, and we need to talk about the U.S. factor in all of this.
Oh yeah, the U.S. is a big part of the story too.
So stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back after a quick break.
Welcome back, everyone. Before the break, we were talking about China, South Korea, and India, and how they're all kind of jostling for position in the shipbuilding industry.
Yeah, it's like a three-way race. China's out in front, building ships like crazy. South Korea's trying to stay ahead with high-tech stuff.
Yeah.
And then you've got India trying to break into the top tier.
Exactly. And this potential partnership between South Korea and India, it could really shake things up.
Yeah, it's a smart move for both of them.
Yeah.
South Korea needs help meeting all those orders, and India wants to learn from the best.
It's a win-win. And it's not just about business either. This partnership has some serious geopolitical implications.
Right, because the U.S. is watching all this very closely.
Oh yeah, the U.S. is definitely concerned about China's growing influence, especially in terms of naval power.
No, I mean, China's Navy is already bigger than the U.S. Navy, right?
That's right. It's a big shift in the balance of power, and the U.S. is looking for ways to counter that. They're strengthening alliances with countries like South Korea, Japan, and India.
So this South Korea-India partnership, it could be part of a bigger strategy to contain China.
Absolutely. And for India, this is a huge opportunity.
Mm.
Remember, they're starting from way behind. They need all the help they can get to reach their shipbuilding goals.
Yeah, they're ambitious, but they've got a long way to go.
They do. But they're making some smart moves.
Yeah.
That huge investment fund they announced, and that new shipbuilding policy. Those are big steps in the right direction.
And it's not just about shipbuilding, right? It's about jobs, economic growth, becoming less reliant on foreign ships.
Exactly. It's about building a whole industry from the ground up.
It's a massive undertaking.
It is. And it won't be easy, but the potential rewards are huge.
So what are the biggest hurdles India needs to overcome?
Well, first of all, they need to dramatically increase their production capacity. They need to build more ships and bigger ships.
Right now, they're relying on other countries to build their ships.
Yeah, something like 95% of India's shipping trade is done on foreign ships. That's a lot of money flowing out of the country.
And a lot of potential jobs staying overseas.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
it's not just new ships either. They need to get better at repairing and maintaining ships, too.
Because right now, they're sending a lot of those jobs overseas as well.
Yeah, almost 60% of India's ship repair work is done in other countries. So there's a huge potential market right there within India itself.
So before they even start exporting ships, they need to meet the demand within their own country.
Exactly. And that's why they're focusing on things like building domestic shipbuilding clusters, attracting foreign investment, and getting technology transfer from countries like South Korea and Japan.
So it's a multi-pronged approach.
It has to be. They're trying to create a whole ecosystem for shipbuilding to thrive.
Okay, so they need to build more ships, upgrade their infrastructure, train more workers, get more investment, and attract foreign partners.
That's pretty much it.
It sounds like a massive challenge.
It is, but it's not impossible. And the payoff could be huge, not just for India, but for the whole world.
Okay, so we've talked about the challenges, but what about solutions?
Hmm.
What concrete steps can India take to actually achieve all of this?
Well, that's a great question, and one we can tackle right after we return from a quick break.
That's right, folks. We'll be back in a flash, so don't go anywhere.
All right, so where were we? Oh yeah, talking about solutions for India's shipbuilding ambitions.
Right, we've talked about the challenges, but now let's get into the nitty-gritty of what they can actually do.
Okay, so first things first. Infrastructure.
Okay, infrastructure.
India needs to seriously upgrade its shipyards. They need modern facilities that can handle building those big, complex ships.
Yeah, they need to be able to compete with the big boys like China and South Korea.
Exactly. And it's not just about the physical stuff. They also need to invest in their workforce.
Right, training and education.
Yep. They need skilled shipbuilders, engineers, designers, people who know how to build these modern ships.
So setting up training programs, maybe partnering with international schools.
Yeah, that kind of thing. And of course, they need to stay on top of the latest technology.
Ah, yeah, technology is key.
Absolutely. Things like automation, digital design tools, new materials.
And eco-friendly tech too, right? Like those green fuel systems.
Of course, sustainability is huge. But all of this takes money.
Money, money, money.
Shipbuilding is a very capital-intensive industry. India needs to attract big investments, both from within India and from overseas.
So they need to create a good environment for investors.
Yep. Make it easy to do business, offer incentives, have stable policies, that kind of thing.
So it's about making it attractive for investors to put their money into Indian shipbuilding.
Exactly. And if they can pull it off, the benefits are huge jobs, economic growth, less reliance on other countries.
Yeah. And becoming a major player on the global stage.
That's the goal.
It's a big goal. But hey, if anyone can do it, India can, right?
I think so. They've got the drive, the resources, and the potential.
Yeah,
It'll be interesting to see how it all unfolds.
it definitely will. And for our UPSC listeners out there, this is something to keep an eye on. Shipbuilding is a key part of India's economic and strategic future.
It's a hot topic, so pay attention.
Okay, so we've covered China, South Korea, India, even touched on the U.S. We've talked about challenges and solutions.
And the future of shipbuilding technology, don't forget that.
Right, autonomous ships, green fuels, it's a whole new world out there.
The future is exciting, and a little bit uncertain too, which is what makes it so interesting.
I agree. Well, I think we've just about reached the end of our deep dive into shipbuilding.
Time flies when you're talking about ships.
It really does. Thanks so much for joining me today. It's been great having you here.
Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk about this stuff.
And to all our listeners, thanks for tuning in. We hope you learned something new today. And if you did, please subscribe to the show and leave us a review. It really helps us out.
Yeah, spread the word. Let's get more people interested in shipbuilding.
And until next time, happy sailing.